Your first task, I just want you to spend about a minute to 2 minutes just writing down anything you can remember about the task that we did last lesson. Okay, thank you. So if you just put the lids on your pens, please. Now, just from standing here, I can see you can already remember lots of information. In a second, I want you to rub your whiteboards clean, and then I want you to find the work that you did last lesson, familiarise yourself with what you did, and then begin to read the comments that I've made. And if you can, then start trying to answer some of these on your whiteboards. I'll give you about 4 or 5 minutes, and I want you to do this bit of the lesson all by yourselves, please. So I don't want you to talk.
The pupils have spent about 20 minutes working on it individually last lesson, and then I've taken their responses in and posed about 3 questions per pupil. I thought it was quite important that they did a little bit of work individually. They've not had the opportunity to read the comments, to discuss the comments. The comments all follow a similar structure. They all start off with a comment that's to do with like almost their effort, and I did that to try and encourage them to carry on really. And then the next step was to write 2 or 3 comments for each individual. Because it's the first time that I've really gone to town with this kind of feedback writing, and it did take me a very long time, but I can really see the value in it.
What I want you to do next is share what you've been writing down today and what you wrote down last lesson with the person that sat next to you. Just discussing the next steps that you're going to take. So what are you going to do to get your work and your partner's work together to get a solution to this problem?
They've had some really good initial ideas, and I've tried to sit them next to pupils that they hadn't worked with in the previous lesson, so they will hopefully have some contrasting ideas, and they can work off each other to make a poster that they'll be able to present to the rest of the group by the end of the lesson.
Each one of those kittens have 21, so that's another 42 more kittens.
Right, so they're like all the ones, but you just split it into 2 because it's easier.
It's easier to work out.
Well, that's 16 months, but then I suppose it wouldn't really count if she had.
So there's 2 more months where she can get where one of the cats
She would be pregnant, but it wouldn't count.
Something that I've been working on, making sure that they are used to talking about the thoughts that are in their heads with the person that sat next to them. Also, it gives me the opportunity to go round and listen in on some of the conversations.
So after 6 months, they all have 6 kittens. Then 2 months later, they have another 6. So then they've all had 12. So that's after 10 months. And then we have So I think we've done it wrong, haven't we? Because we've done it.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be.
I think it's really important that the students had that time so they could share their thoughts really, so that it wasn't just one person's ideas and the other person was writing on the poster. It was a combination of the 2 individuals' ideas to make in the one poster.
Okay, can I ask you now to put the lids on your pens and put your pens down, please? Whenever we're doing a problem like this, whenever we're trying to find a solution, what is it that we're aiming to achieve all of the time? Sam?
Be efficient.
Be efficient. Caitlin?
Like to make our ideas clearer to the rest of the class.
Fantastic. Jamie?
To include not only diagrams but also little bits of speech to come with it.
Brilliant, yeah. So sometimes the diagram and a little bit of an explanation to go with it. Beth?
Instead of just getting the answer, understanding how we got the answer.
Excellent. And Jacob, last one.
Like learning different people's methods and trying to adapt them into our own work.
Fantastic, yeah. So not just thinking about your own method, thinking about other people's methods as well. Your next task is to start putting your ideas and transferring them from your whiteboards onto the sugar paper. Because in about 20 minutes, what I'd like is some of the groups to start presenting their work to the rest of the class so that we all can see what you're thinking.
The diagrams that they used helped with their thinking, and quite a lot of them, the first things that they did was rewrite the facts. That seemed to be really successful for them because it helped them formalise what it was in their own minds. And then I think the reason that some of them rejected their diagrams, there was nothing wrong with the diagrams, they were just a bit too complicated, and they saw, once they'd gone through the process a little bit, that the problem was more complex than they first thought, and then went back to doing a different approach.
175, yeah.
The thing that some of them wanted to do was make it look pretty, and although I wanted them to make it look clear, I was much more interested in the maths that they got. So the only piece of equipment that I wanted them to use really was the thick board markers, and that's because you can stand quite a few metres away and be able to see what's happening.
At first I split it into 2, but then I realised that they can't get pregnant 4 times.
Okay.
So we went with 4 because it's half a year, so it shouldn't be 3 but it shouldn't be 5, so we went with 4.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to observe and listen, and I think it gave me more time to talk to the pupils, or just listen to the pupils rather than talking as well. I think the way that the lesson was structured did give me the opportunity to go into greater depth with different groups as I would have done normally. Because I was able to move around more, I felt like I could perhaps try and get into their understanding a lot better.
Well, the cat has to be 4 months to be get pregnant.
Okay.
So then it's got pregnant before.
So we can work out the smallest amount that it can have.
Ah, the smallest, right?
Yeah, and then when it's pregnant with 4 kittens, it has them in 6 months. Then it gets pregnant again, and then there's 4 more born. Well, then in 10 months, then that first litter can have 4 as well. So it gets pregnant along with the cat.
Why have you decided to say that it's going to be 10 months for that to happen?
Because the cats have to be 4 months old to get pregnant.
I was really conscious of trying to ask questions all the time rather than give methods or give hints, because I've consciously thought about trying to not give answers. I can see this helping me when I'm trying to deliver more objective-led lessons, so that I'm not just giving answers then either.
So, Freya and Ariana, would you be happy to go up and show us what you've done so far, please?
Basically, we've got the timeline here for the 18 months, and we've got each of these dots is a litter, and the cat we worked out would have 6 litters. And although you could space these out,
when this girl was working by herself, it was obvious that had got some excellent ideas. But what she'd failed to do, she'd failed to read all of the facts. There was one of the facts that said that on average, that cats can have 3 litters a year. The first question that I asked her to think about was which one of the key facts she'd not thought about, and then is that the most efficient way to write things? And finally, the diagram that she used perhaps could be modified to make it clearer and more useful in the long run, but this is what she managed to produce in the end. So she has addressed the fact that they only have 3 litters a year by putting them 2 months apart, which I thought was quite interesting. And then I asked the pair questions about is this what would happen in the real world, and eventually they agreed that it would probably be more spread out over the year. And that diagram for me is much more easy to understand because it's on a scale than what they'd written down here.
What assumptions have you made right from the very start, from the very first litter that your cats had?
We assumed that the cat was already pregnant and already 4 months old at the 0 months, because otherwise she'd have to wait 4 months till they could have kittens.
It was quite interesting for me to see how 2 pupils that sat together, the way that they solve a problem. That's what I found quite unpredictable and really interesting, that part of the lesson.
Have you got a question there?
I was going to say, would all the kittens be girls then?
no, because it says the descendants, and it'd still be descendants if they were boys.
The things I like about yours is just looking at your diagram. I didn't really need you to start explaining it, because to me it looks very clear what your thinking is already. So I really liked the diagram that you've drawn. I also like the fact that your timeline that you've decided to go for is very clear to understand as well. Thank you very much, girls. That was fantastic.